Hey everyone, Stephanie Robilio here, licensed clinical social worker, published author, and the chief clinical officer at Agape Behavioral Healthcare, and you are tuning into the Mindful Living podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindful Living podcast. Today I'm going to dive into what future tripping is and why it will hold you back. So you may or may not have heard of this term, but future tripping is this term that's been attached to the person who tends to live in the future, to the person who tends to worry about their future. To future trip is to live in a constant state of worry or fear about what's to come. It's to create the worst possible case scenarios and predict the worst possible outcomes about something that hasn't happened yet, right? The future. And so it's almost like this mental habit that creates this internal worry and fear, and it really, really prevents you from being able to live in the only time you have, which is the now, right? If we're constantly living in a state of worry, then that will create stress, and inevitably that will hinder one's ability to really be able to engage and be present in the present moment, the now. And so the impact of future tripping is really big, because think about it. If you're that person who's always thinking about what's to come, always worrying about what's to come, always predicting the worst possible case scenarios, then you are living in a frequent, if not constant, state of stress. And this has a significant impact on mental well-being and mental health, and eventually even physical health, because we know to live in a state of stress is not good for our physical health, and quite frankly, it's not good for our spiritual health either. So in essence, to future trip is really to negatively impact the mind, the body, and the spirit, because it amplifies stress, it increases anxiety levels, and all it does is distract you from being able to enjoy your life in the present moment. So think about it like this. If you're living in a state of perpetual anticipation of something bad, that is going to cost you really your life, because your life is in the now. But if you're always worried about the next bad thing or the next negative thing that's going to happen, then you are actually robbing yourself of time. And what I've learned in my life is our mind can either be used as an amazing tool to really, really support us, or it can be used as a dangerous weapon. It can either be used as an amazing tool or a dangerous weapon. And that's something really big to just sit with and resonate. Are you the person who's allowing your mind to be a dangerous tool or weapon? Or are you using it as a supportive tool, right? But what I have found from firsthand experience is that because we have this programmed self and this automatic self, our mind is not going to naturally or automatically become a beautiful tool. Unfortunately, for most of us, because we have experienced trauma to some extent, our mind has become our own worst enemy. And as a result, it's like that dangerous weapon that blocks us. It's a barrier. It hurts us. It ruins relationships, maybe even to the extent of not able to maintain employment, financial hardship, or just constantly living in a state of self-sabotage, like all because of the mind. And so if you're that person who tends to future trip, this is an invitation to do your very best to practice awareness in the moment. And when you find yourself worrying about what's to come, remind yourself that you only have the power of now. You only have control in the now. And if you have the ability to predict the worst possible case scenarios, then that means you also have the ability to predict the best possible case scenarios. But you and only you have the ability and the potential to train your mind, train your brain to see the good, predict the good, find the good, focus on the good. And like anything else in life, it's practice, right? If you wanted to improve your physical physique, you would not go to the gym just a couple times a week and only do, a quick weight circuit, some light cardio, and still eat poorly, right? If you were serious about improving your physique, you would be in the gym consistently. You'd be following some diet plan or meal plan, and you'd be exercising and lifting weights consistently, because it's the consistency that creates the memory, right? The muscle memory, which is the same is true for our brain. Our brain has something called neuroplasticity, which is this genius thing that allows it to change. We can actually rewire our brain. We can rewire our thinking. And so if you are that person, again, who you feel like all you do is worry about the future and you don't know why you do that, it's just happening, then some things that you can do to overcome this, a few strategies, is practice mindfulness. So practicing mindfulness is about grounding yourself in the present moment through mindfulness practices such as deep breathing, meditation, or simply just paying attention to your senses in the moment, right? So like really connecting to what do you see, what do you hear, what do you feel, what do you taste, what can you touch? Like just being immersed with your senses in the moment. That is an amazing way to stay grounded. And by doing mindfulness practices, you will find that it'll help to reduce that grip of your future because you're actually training your brain to be present in the now. Another way to overcome future tripping is to set realistic goals. So instead of fixating on the future outcomes, why don't you break down your goals into smaller achievable steps? Even if it's little steps that you can accomplish every single day, you will find that setting a goal, breaking it down into small steps every day, this approach will absolutely foster a sense of accomplishment and progress without giving you the overwhelming feeling of anxiety, fear, worry, and in some cases, maybe even panic, depending on the severity of which you're future tripping. And then this one's really, really big and also can be difficult to do, but embracing flexibility, right? So what I mean by that is teaching yourself to have an open mind and an open heart. It's literally about loosening your grip on life. Loosening your grip on life. It's about learning how to accept that the future is uncertain, right? Like we don't know what the future is. We don't know what tomorrow is. Quite frankly, we don't even know what an hour is from now or 15 minutes from now. All we know is what is happening in the present moment. And most of us, if we're honest with each other, the reason we try to future trip, or the reason I shouldn't say try, the reason we do future trip is because we're trying to stay in control. But think about it. The future is not in our control because it's not now. It's not now. And if you want to be in control, with which most of us do, I know that I certainly do, I think that all of us do, because with being in control provides a sense of safety and security. But it is an incredible moment when you realize that you have the ability to control the way you respond to the present moment. You have the ability to respond to the present moment, to your emotions, to your own thoughts. Like you are in control. You have more control than you think you have. But if you try to control tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you are actually not in control at all. You are simply robbing yourself of the only thing you will never get back, which is time. So embracing flexibility is letting go, right? Right now in this moment, if you were to take your fists and close them really, really tight, that would be an illustration of going through life with a tight grip. But then one by one, open each finger, right? So like in this moment, do this with me. Tight grip, fist or close. If you slowly open one finger at a time until your fists are now fully open and you can see your beautiful palms, that is what it means to embrace flexibility. It's about letting go of that tight grip. No more clinging on to what you can't control. No more clinging on to what's not yours to cling on to. Opening up, releasing yourself, understanding the moment you open up and you let go, that energy is so expansive, and that energy in itself is going to eventually clear all the worry out of your body, clear the anxiety, clear the fear, and it will guide you to a place of inner peace because it feels good to be flexible. It feels so good to live with an open mind and an open heart. But part of this is developing a sense of faith and trust that everything is going to work out for you. Everything is going to work out for you. Maybe not on your timeline, maybe not the way you wished it would look, but what I have found from my own life experience, and I see this happen in the lives of so many, is that the moment we let go, life begins to get really, really, really good. And somehow, some way, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it blesses us beyond measure, and we end up having things and they look a lot better than the way we originally saw them. But again, it requires a sense of faith and trust. And what I'm speaking to right now, it's not like, hey, just open that tight grip and let it go. And then boom, there you are, having faith, having trust, and on your way to inner peace. Like, no, it's not always that simple. But what I have found is that, again, if you practice these strategies every day and you stay committed and you stay consistent, eventually you're going to start to feel better. And then when you feel better, you eventually feel good. And then you feel great. And then you feel free. You feel free of worry, free of anxiety, free of fear. And I don't know about you, but I don't know any person who wants to live in a state of fear, anxiety, stress, and worry, or any unpleasant emotion. But I think what happens is we get so comfortable in those emotions because we've known them for so long, and it can be really difficult to let go and step into the unknown. But Dr. Joe Dispenza, this is somebody that I follow all of his work. I think that he's one of the most brilliant people on earth today. He says the best way to predict your future is to create it. Think about that for a moment. The best way to predict your future is to create it. So again, it goes back to what I said a moment ago. If you have the time to predict your future to be horrible, to be dramatic, to be catastrophic, to be tragedy, to be negative, to be heartbroken, then that means you have the ability to predict beautiful, positive, amazing, healthy, full of life, full of love, full of joy, full of abundant outcomes. But you have to be the one to choose to use your mind to predict your future by creating it in the present moment. Another strategy is cultivating gratitude. So for those of you who have been following me, you know that gratitude to me is one of the best medicines. I talk about it in my workbook, Mindful Makeover. I even talk about it again in my workbook, Well Now. And I'm sure you're going to hear about it in my next book, which is dropping soon. So stay tuned for that. But gratitude, it's free. It's literally free medicine. And there's no negative side effects. The only thing that happens from gratitude is you start to feel amazing. It will literally change your life if you practice gratitude. So again, if you find yourself worried about the future, I invite you with so much love to stop in that moment and choose to find things to be grateful for in the present moment. And it can be simple things. It can be the blue sky or a gloomy day if you're into that. The scent of a candle, the water that you get to drink, or the hot water that you get to take a shower with, the roof over your head, the ground beneath your feet, your friends, your family, your job, your team, whatever it is, the food you eat, like the cup of coffee that you sip. Find anything to be grateful for. Your two arms, your two legs, your body, whatever it is. Use your mind to focus on what you're grateful for, because that in itself will keep you from letting your mind take you into the future, which you do not have. And then another really great skill is reframing. So reframing is a technique that we're taught through, cognitive behavior therapy. And really what this means is you can challenge your negative future focused thoughts by reframing them into more empowering thoughts. So let's say rather than focusing on the limitations of what could be, focus on the possibilities, right? Because again, if there's a limitation, that means there's a possibility, because there couldn't be one without the other. But if you're the future tripper, then you're conditioned to see the limitations of everything, which is okay. But over the course of your life, it's not okay. It's actually quite problematic, because it's going to block you from being able to see the possibilities. So let's say you are in the moment, and let's just pretend there's a family member that maybe you need to reconnect with, and you two have been avoiding each other, or whatever the scenario is. And the future tripper is already assuming that the phone call is going to go really, really bad. Well, when you notice that your mind is having that thought that the phone call is going to go bad, when you haven't even had the phone call yet, so therefore there's no evidence of anything yet because nothing's happened, you can use the skill of reframing to reframe that thought to something like, I am nervous, or I feel nervous about this phone call because I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm just going to let it be what it is. Or I feel worried about the outcome and I'm going to believe that it's going to be well. Or I'm really nervous to pick up the phone right now, but you know what? I just have to focus on me, and I'm only responsible for my side of the street. I have no control over the other person, but I'm just going to do what I think is best. I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to trust my gut. Right? So you're still acknowledging you feel nervous, you feel worried, you maybe feel a little uneasy about this phone call, but you're not assuming that it's not going to go well, because the truth is, until you actually have that phone call, there's no evidence of how the call went. Now, if you have the phone call and it doesn't go great and maybe it's really bad, well then, okay, yeah, then there's evidence that it didn't go well. But that wouldn't be future tripping. That would just be focusing on the facts. But if you haven't had that phone call yet and you're predicting it's going to go bad, you're future tripping. And it's so unhealthy for so many reasons. And what I have found is, thank God I've been doing my inner work now for 11 years. So future tripping shows up here and there for me, nowhere as intense as it used to. There was a time in my life where I was so crippled by the future. And when I say that out loud now, I don't want to laugh because it's not funny. And I know that there's people who still struggle with this, but in some way it does sound silly to me that, think about it, I was paralyzed by the future. But how can I be paralyzed by something that hasn't happened? It doesn't make sense. So what that tells me is that I was paralyzed within my own self because of my thoughts. I was allowing my mind to rule my life. My mind was driving me into a direction that was fear-based. And most people are doing this without even realizing. And this is why we often talk about awareness is step one. You must become aware. Are you the person who's worried about tomorrow? Are you worried about tomorrow? And if so, are you willing to redirect your focus back in the now? Can you let go of the worries of tomorrow and have faith and belief in this moment? Can you trust that everything's going to work out for you? And if you struggle with that, then I invite you to dig deeper. What is the barrier that's keeping you from trusting that your life is going to unfold exactly how it's supposed to? We don't know the order. We don't know what you'll have, what you won't have, when it'll happen, how it'll happen. None of that matters. What matters is that you give yourself permission to live your life in the present moment, that you find joy in the present moment, and that you do what makes you feel the most happiest in the present moment. Because once the present moment is gone, it's gone. So you can either spend your life worried about the future, or you can choose to live in the now. And, it's so sad to say this, but I've met so many people where, it's like you ask them, what do you regret most? And most people say that they didn't live their life in the now, that they were always worried about what's to come, or in some cases they were dwelling on the past, right? I mean, it makes no sense to allow the past to be the reason why we suffer in the now, just like it makes no sense to let the worries of the future be why we suffer with stress in the now. And so don't let future tripping rob you of the joy of living your life. And if you stay committed to practicing the strategies I mentioned, like mindfulness, setting small achievable goals, trying to do your best to be flexible, right? Having that open mind, that open heart, and then fostering a sense of gratitude and using the skill of reframing, you absolutely can break free from the cycle of future tripping. And if you break free from that, you will find that you reduce the anxiety, the fear fades away, all of those heavy, unpleasant emotions that I know don't feel good within the body, they suddenly go away. But just like anything else, you have to be consistent with it. And these practices will absolutely lead you to living a more fulfilling, a more meaningful life filled with inner peace, which all of you 100% deserve and are more than worthy of that. I believe that strongly. Every single person who's listening right now and all the people who will listen to this podcast in the future, you are all worthy and deserving of living your life in the present moment. You are worthy and deserving of freeing yourself from the fear of the unknown. You are so worthy of living a life at your highest and best self, reaching that optimal wellness, but you are entirely up to you. So I hope if you take nothing else away from this podcast, I hope that you will take away that you have exactly what it takes to loosen your grip on life and do your very best to stop focusing on what's out of your control, but instead bring your mind back into the now, focus on what's in your control. And remember, if you go through life focusing on someone, you miss out on everyone. If you go through life focusing on something, you miss out on everything. So do not let future tripping cause you to miss out on the endless possibilities and opportunities that are available to you and for you today and every day. Until the next episode, I am beaming so much love to you all. And again, thanks for connecting with me. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you found today's episode to be insightful and inspiring, drop me a review so together we can help the next person, and come connect with me on social at Stephanie Robilio and find all of my books on Amazon. Until the next episode, stay mindful and always remember the power that lives inside of you.